Black women are the base of the party. Black women are also capable of governing, of being qualified. Be clear, it's not just a token identity pick, but we're either going to recognize that the Black people are the power of the Democratic Party. Those are the two choices. Okay, and I saw a poll out today that shows that Joe Biden's Black support slipped by 3 points. He's down to 81% Black support in the latest NBC News poll. Now, Donald Trump only has 3% support himself. His support has dropped by 4%. But you're going to have Black people stay home. And you can curse them and you can say Donald Trump is the most important thing. It's not going to matter if you do not energize Black voters. And Amy Klobuchar is a non-starter with Black voters that Joe Biden doesn't already have.
Erica, the thing is this here. All this talk around Senator Amy Klobuchar is that she could be the key to unlocking and winning these white voters in the Midwest. But I thought that was the reason why Biden was the choice. I thought Joe from Scranton was the one who could appeal to the white voters in Pennsylvania. Because they say once you get outside of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, the rest of Pennsylvania is Alabama. I thought he was the guy who could appeal to the white voters in Michigan. Once you get outside of Detroit and Flint and Lansing, Michigan, the rest of it is Alabama. And then, of course, let's talk about Wisconsin. Same thing in Minnesota. Once you get outside of Minneapolis and St. Paul and large cities, the rest of Minnesota is Alabama. So I thought if that was why Joe was there, why you need backup from a white woman like Klobuchar?
He does not. And I get my political excitement around talking about VPs and listening to VPs from a woman who has been very staunch in her support of the Black woman running for president, Senator Kamala Harris. And that is our very own Reese Colbert. And so, listen, to be quite frank, I think that the point that Reese brought up is something that should be very much so of concern, because our support is not forever. Amy Klobuchar definitely has embarrassed herself. She's not come into account for some of her decisions when she was prosecutor, definitely not in the same way that Senator Kamala Harris has. And to be quite honest, I think what is also happening now is that he really needs to, and excuse for me saying this, he needs to cut the shit show. There was a big announcement about him bringing in Karine Jean-Pierre as a senior advisor now. As we continue to cover stories like you do on Roland Martin Unfiltered, talking about Ahmaud Arbery and just this newest case out in Des Moines, Iowa, and just everything that Black folks are having to shoulder, not just in a pandemic, but with regular life, there needs to be, and it needs to happen very rapidly, like before the month of June or during the month of June, for him to go ahead and announce who that VP is. And I'm throwing a term away, women of color, because it needs to be a damn Black woman. Black women are the most disrespected. It's not women of color. It's Black women. We have been here. Cicely Tyson talks about that fourth rung, how Black women, when we go into a space, we lift everyone up because we're looking through everyone's lens. And so when you see people coming out talking about, well, a Black woman needs to be vice president, the one person that I know that has always actively advocated for a Black woman to be in the White House in this modern time has been Black Women Views. And so cut it. Go ahead and make the announcement. If we're going to roll out a top three, those top three, to me, all three of them should be Black women. And let's get it moving, because there's a lot of work to be done, particularly around voter protections and making sure that the base of the party does turn out, and leave them white folks alone. They left in the 60s. They're not coming back. That's over. It is done with. It needs to be a Black woman that's going to be the Veep on this Biden ticket.
So I'll put this out to you, and I've heard this from some Black female activists who say if he picks Senator Elizabeth Warren, they would welcome that pick. She's progressive. There are Democrats who say that she would unite the progressive wing with this moderate center right, if you will, that Biden appeals to. Y'all thoughts about seeing Elizabeth Warren as a potential VP pick?
Yeah, that's not a Black woman. And Senator Elizabeth Warren, I tip my hat to her. She won the blue check battle of intelligentsias. She had the black intelligentsia. She had the black verified Twitter on her account. And guess what? In South Carolina, she got 8% of the black vote. In Virginia, she got 8% of the black vote. So she can parachute every black person in there to co-sign her, but she did not connect with black people during the primary. It's not just a Joe thing. If you look at her audiences, they were very monolithically white, even in places like South Carolina. So no, Elizabeth Warren is not a black VP, just like Bill Clinton is not a black president, just like Donald Trump is not a black president, as some of his black supporters would say. Absolutely not. Elizabeth Warren is not sufficient. She did not perform all that well in the primaries herself. She never placed above third place. She had a $140 million campaign. She lost every single race, including her home state. So this whole notion that she's some sort of big unifier is really strange, and it doesn't really bear out based on her performance in the primaries. Amy Klobuchar barely placed above fourth or fifth in the few contests that she made it through. And so, yes, even though Senator Kamala Harris dropped out before the voting starts, there is absolutely no more persuasive case to be made for Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar's electability, given how poorly they fared throughout the campaign, with far more money, far more exposure, and far more opportunities to prove themselves. So again, that's an absolutely hell no on Elizabeth Warren.
Erica.
Absolutely. Everything that Reese said. And whatever the Ivy League, I guess, notion gives people in ways of connecting with her, good for them. I'm with Reese. She is not a damn black woman. And that is the bottom line. The Veep ticket has to be a black woman. And mind you, and this is just the facts, Senator Klobuchar is, Senator Warren is in her 70s. So I think that she serves far better in the wells of the Senate than running alongside someone who is advanced in age himself. He needs the same group of women that gave him a Christ-like resurrection when he was in South Carolina to his campaign. What
do you say to people, the people who have been commenting on the chat, who say Senator Harris didn't resonate among black people?
Well, number one, she absolutely did resonate around black people. As a matter of fact, there were articles about how the fact that she was tapping into a black donor class that hadn't even been tapped into before. Her events were very much diverse. There were tons of black people at her events. I, in fact, attended her Blacks in her campaign. She ran a campaign that raised a total of $35 million, which, by the way, is the most that a black woman has ever raised running for president. However, you compare that to $140 million, of course she's not going to compete as well. But the fact of the matter is, Kamala Harris was able to generate enthusiasm in her supporters. She was able to constantly bring out black people, which is what we're talking about here. In Michigan, she won the endorsement of the entire Michigan Black Caucus. And so this whole notion that Senator Kamala Harris doesn't appeal to black people just because there were smears about her record that were propagated by the progressive wing of the party, because she didn't get to South Carolina because we had the most white states voting first, which she was not polling well in, is ridiculous. It's trying to pass off the structural disadvantages of this presidential campaign as some sort of deficiency on her part. The bottom line is Senator Kamala Harris has won the most votes out of all of these women, period, time and time again. She's won competitive primaries, unlike Senator Elizabeth Warren, who wasn't in a competitive primary. Klobuchar was not in a competitive primary for their Senate seats. So she's won. The proof is in the pudding. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is Senator Kamala Harris can go into black spaces. She can go on Revolt TV, the podcast with Joe Biden and Rick Ross. She can go on to Essence Magazine, to the Essence Festival. She can go into all these black places credibly and competently talk about our issues as black people. And more importantly, she's actually working on these things. I don't see Elizabeth Warren pushing the racial disparities and ethnic task force. I don't see her pushing all these initiatives about racial profiling and trying to push William Barr on all these things. Senator Kamala Harris is taking the lead. She didn't drop black people like a bad habit once she dropped out. She is still fighting for her issues, and that's what we need.